friends. Welcome. And thanks for joining us on the Lead with Love, Love Wins podcast for conversations with changemakers. I'm Lauren Beller. In this series, co host Sherry Hodds and I chat with guests who are making changes in their world at work, at home, and in community. They're gaining self awareness, compassion, and courage to make a difference and are kindly sharing their wisdom, challenges, and experiences with us so we can all learn from their leadership. Thanks so much for being part of this journey. You can learn more about our work with leaders at changemakernation.com. Now let's begin. Okay, welcome to, actually, we've decided to do a little bit different this year. It's called Conversations with a Changemaker. And each month, Sherry and I are going to have a conversation about a topic and bring in somebody that's sort of stepping into the topic that we're talking about, and then having a live conversation with them as well. So I'm looking forward to this particular topic. This particular topic today is about creating your extraordinary life post-COVID, but not tomorrow, today. So Sherry, what are your first thoughts on this topic today? What do you think?
Well, what comes up is, consciously designing your life versus letting it happen to you. And particularly, as you say, coming out of COVID, coming out of the pandemic, so much is happening to us. And this is really about taking your power back and being conscious. And it takes such work. And when we speak to clients, it's a lot about getting present so that you can make conscious decisions. And when I think about coming out of the pandemic, two things come up. The first one is yay. We were just talking about getting our vaccines and being able to be together again. And the second is like, I want to be out there, but I kind of don't want to be out there either. Like I there's certain things that I want to keep, and and it's not fear, it's just realizing that I want things to be different than they were and wanting to choose something different. Yeah. How about you?
I'm having a lot of those conversations, and there's the people that are apprehensive about COVID being over, but there's also people that are so excited about it being over. And then there's those of us in between that there's things that we're excited about and things that we're not so thrilled about. Like for me, the slowness of and slow is not the right word because I have not been slow. Less on my plate, less options, less choices on my plate feel really important, and important for me to manage and continue to keep it that way, and to really be thoughtful about what I say yes to, more thoughtful probably than I ever have been in the world. So, or in my life, I should say. And I'm having a lot of conversations with people that have such mixed emotions about it.
Yeah. And Michelle was just saying how she was emotional just getting her vaccine. And I think it's one of those examples of how emotional it is, and you don't realize it because you're so used to like just getting through. And this really is about slowing down and allowing the emotions to come, and then being able to make choices based on how you really feel. So the other thing that came up when we were talking about consciously designing our lives is that previously I would have said, yes, I want change. Yes, I want things to be different. I'm going to go out and make it happen. So it's all about like fixing it and taking action and like do something different, But it really is, you were saying slowing down. It really is about slowing down and feeling what's coming up for you and being very purposeful about what you're choosing and why.
Yeah. I agree. I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and he was talking about how important it was to just stop and think. He said, I just need more time to create thinking space. And I agree with him 100% that we need to continue to be sure we have thinking space. We're stronger, wiser, better humans when we have time to think and have time to just be with what is versus keep going on that hamster wheel. And the hamster wheel is what I think we want to be sure we don't jump back on if we haven't already. I find in my case, in some ways, it feels like I'm halfway on that hamster wheel again, rather than not stepping on it and getting on it only consciously, then getting off of it or not getting on it at all.
And sometimes it's like your foot is trapped in the wheel and it keeps on.
Exactly. It's so
But
true.
yeah, the other thing is it's about, okay, so you want to be present, you want to make good choices, you want to be purposeful, you want to slow down, you want to think. How do you create that for yourself when, as you said, you're on the hamster wheel without, feeling trapped or halfway on and off? So
That's the question right there, is how do we do it? And for me, it's about awareness of, oh, I'm speeding up. My speed today was too fast. Or just noticing that we're getting into that same old way. Because I think that there is an innate ability to sort of keep up with what's going on out there in the world. And we don't want to keep up with what's going on out there in the world. We want to create our world and make it the pace we want. There's something for me about grace and saying no and getting really clear that what was is not what I want.
yeah,
And also about that we don't have to wait until when we are summer's here. We don't have to wait until we retire. We don't have to wait until we um, feel better. Now is the time to create extraordinary. Right now is the time. Today is the day.
yeah. So one of the things that occurs to me about how to start making these conscious choices is to be careful about the inputs that you're taking in. A lot of us have been watching the news, watching the number of COVID cases, watching what's happening with the vaccine, and where you're getting that news from, for instance, or how much of that news you're allowing to get in, and where you're consuming your content from can really affect how present or how much in that fear mode you really are.
I posted a post about this particular conversation. I don't remember what day it was, yesterday, the day before. And I so agree with you that we are in charge of what we let in. And it's that simple, but it's really hard. Like when someone irritates us, are we letting that irritation in? Are we seeing it for what we want it to be? How are we taking it in? What are we taking in? What are we allowing to be a part of our everyday? And that is the shift that for me, I would like to see for me, that I don't let the things in that I maybe used to. But we have a choice about that. We have a choice about the speed in which we go. We let in things that are going fast. We have a speed. We let in opinions. We let in limiting beliefs. I mean, it's incredible what we let in and what we choose not to, what we can say no to letting in.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really great process to go through, is to create space for yourself to really, first of all, get clear on what is coming in. What are you not only just listening to, but internalizing because of that? What sources of information and content are you bringing in and allowing in, and why? And then based on what is coming in and its effect on you, you're getting clear on that, then you can say, okay, no to this, yes to this. And here are some other things I'm going to choose differently. So that can help with your being more present, being more able to be thoughtful and think, wow.
I think that too, that it's not to miss opportunities. When we are moving so fast, we miss the glorious opportunities right in front of us. So when we slow down to be present with what is, so much more opportunity is available to us right now. Right now. And it's a habit to break, right? To slow down, to have a different speed in which we are moving. It's a habit that we get to decide if we want to break that. It is habit. It's nothing more than a habit. So we get to choose how fast or slow life is going. And I think there's something a little bit made up that says the faster we go, the more we're going to accomplish and the better we are.
Yeah, that's old wiring, right? That's the way we've been trained, is like the faster you move, the more you do. Like,
Mhm.
focus on the doing, the action, as opposed to the being. How am I showing up?
Mhm.
What intentions do I have? That's very different energy, those two
Yeah,
things. That old wiring, we can be, really look at it and see it for what it is, old stories that are running us.
yeah, for sure. Um, Yesterday, a client mentioned the Seinfeld skit that I did find and posted it on Facebook today. If anybody wants, it's 1 minute long and it was beautiful. Seinfeld's having a conversation with another famous person that I should know his name, but I don't off the top of my head. And he's saying, when you used to come in my office, you'd have a cigar and you'd have these wise things that you'd share with me. And he goes, why did you not, you weren't so wise with a cigarette. And he goes, no, cigarettes are fast, gotta go, more. Cigars are slow. You relax, you think, you share your wisdom. And Seinfeld says, cigars help us think because we slow down. We're not in a hurry. And I loved it. I thought this is we all need to be, I don't really literally mean it because I don't smoke cigars, but we all need to be in the mindset of it's time for a cigar. It's time to breathe in. And that takes me to actually the introduction to Jill, I think.
I was going to say that. I mean, wine would fit that bill. So yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Going down and enjoying, right?
Yes. I want to bring Jill Osur in, who is the, I didn't plan to do that. That was just done so naturally. So Jill, I'm going to have you, so Jill's my new friend. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I'd love for you to introduce yourself for your story. So what happened during COVID to you? Can you share with us your story?
Yeah. And I do have a lot of new friends because it's, I don't know, something about, when they know that I own a winery, I get a lot of friend requests. So I don't know, it just seems to happen that way. So just giving you a hard time. So I thank you for having me, by the way. And I'm thrilled to be here. And I really am passionate about, people, like me creating an extraordinary life for myself and not letting life dictate what I do, but for me to be in control of my own destiny. And, I grew up as an athlete. I'm an identical twin. We both played collegiate sports. I played softball at Cal. I was a catcher. She was a basketball player. So I've been very competitive my whole life. But I also was brought up to use my voice and to stand up and to speak up and speak out. And so I've always done that. And obviously going to Berkeley, I mean, it's natural for people to use their voice when you go to Berkeley. So I've been in the wine industry since 2015. And I don't know that I recognized that was happening because I was still being very vocal in my personal life and standing up for social injustices and a lot of things. But I was starting to feel somewhat tamed by the industry. And it wasn't until COVID hit that, the governor closed down most of the tasting rooms. So business was not, business as usual was far in our rearview mirror. So that wasn't going to be. And in my own business, where I'm one of two partners, president of this company, I was feeling like I was bringing these incredibly creative ideas. And they were being not well received because there's this chain of command in our business. And I'm like, well, how does that serve the business? And so that happens. Then, so I'm starting to get a bit frustrated. Then the death of George Floyd and everything happening in our country. And so I just kind of said, as a female leader in the wine industry, what am I doing to be part of the solution? And so because we're all stuck at home, I started to take an introspective look at my own life and what I was doing. And the more I started to take a look at, how can I be part of the solution, I started to realize by data, there's only 10% female winemakers in this country. There's 14% in California, but there's 10% across the country. And a lot of people don't realize there are tons of wine regions in this country. I mean, from Texas to Virginia to, you name it. So 10% is horrible, especially when the majority of seats in wine programs are filled by women. And 0.1% Black winemakers, men and women. Female sommeliers make 70 cents on the dollar to their male counterparts. You'll look at, there are women that own tasting rooms with their partners or even on their own. There's a lot of associates in tasting rooms that are women. But when you look at the industry, there are very few women in leadership positions and even fewer women of color in leadership positions. And yet 67% of all wine purchases are made by women, and the industry doesn't reflect its largest customer. So I went in and essentially talked to my partner and said, look, I'm an owner with you, a majority owner, and I love what you're doing, but I need my own voice. And we were also having, and this may resonate with a lot of you. We were kind of having a lot of strain between us because we're like the two-headed monster when it comes to management. He's from the UK. He's very chain of command, very, he doesn't think he is, but he is. And I, given my background in sports, I'm very, teamwork, co-create, collaborate. Like I love that. That is, part of who I am. And I love that. And so in talking, it seemed like I was seeing that there could be a win-win opportunity here, that I still get my fruit and my grapes and use some winemaking stuff. But if I create my own company, then I can do it my way. And so, in the middle of COVID, right after George Floyd's passing or death, I created Teneral Cellars. And the word Teneral and the logo, it's a dragonfly, which I have right here. Sorry. That's our current release, the RBG release that she has. I've had a fascination with dragonflies since I was a young girl, and I have a 28-year-old daughter, and she and I would watch Gilmore Girls at nauseum. So for any of you that watched that, there was the Dragonfly Inn on that, and just a point of heartfelt connection with my daughter. But as I got older, the dragonfly really began to represent a spirit creature for me. So the dragonfly reminds us to be the light. A dragonfly is a symbol of transformation. And the word teneral is when a dragonfly comes out of its cast and it's at its most vulnerable state. So its wings are clear, colorless, it can't fly. And literally within days, it gets its color, can spread its wings and take off. And for those of you, we all know dragonflies. Dragonflies have incredible power, but they're also really graceful. So, they can have a 40, 50 mile an hour wind and they can pivot and move and then you get a swarm of them and it's just a beautiful thing to see. So because I created an all digital platform, I decided I want to reach women all over the world. We created our own definition of Teneral. So Teneral is claiming the power within to transform the world with grit and grace, always being, always becoming. And that always being, always becoming is that transformation. I want to be a better version of myself today than yesterday and a better version of myself tomorrow than today. And so we literally created this all digital platform to a community of like-minded women and those who support our mission, because we have a lot of men who support what we do, to sip, create, and act with purpose. And so I created a model that is a woman-owned and run business. I am committed to elevating women in wine, all women in wine, through equity in the business, in diversity and inclusion, but also empowering and elevating women around the country to produce sustainably farmed and produced exceptional wines. We are a wine company first, but I want to make sure that our wines are elevated, that we don't put sugar or concentrate, that we don't use any glyphosate, Roundup, or any chemicals in what we produce, so that you're getting the purest of product and a great product. And 3 is to support charities and organizations that empower women, but include social, racial, and gender justice and climate, because Mother Earth is so important. So we launched Teneral Cellars on October 1st, but our real launch was a couple weeks ago when we launched our new Ruth Bader Ginsburg collection. So honoring the legacy of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we're giving $10 back from every 3-pack sold to the National Women's Law Center, because they do incredible work around gender and racial justice for women. And we've got recipes that pair with that. We've got a concert by singer-songwriter Carsey Bland. Everything's virtual. So we literally, when you get a box, you get recipes, tasting notes, about the charity. And my hope is that when you open that box, that you're going to be inspired to have the necessary conversations to elevate all women and to create a connection. And so our Swarm, our wine club, is all about, it's a movement. It's, yes, you get great discounts. Yes, you get access to backstage things and after parties and all that stuff. But it's really about, you don't need to go to a march or a tasting room to make this connection and to join the movement. And by joining the Swarm, you're part of something that is much bigger than just a club. And it's really knowing that every purchase is with purpose and that you're literally changing the world. And so, but I am destined to prove that we can have a wildly successful company that is owned by women, run by women, that is heart-centered. And, as Lauren, we were talking and Sherry earlier, it's really about how do you, like, for me, when I finally decided that I was going to align my passion and my purpose and live that every day, then I literally can wake up and step into that greatness. And I wasn't able to do that. I was leaving the best version of myself at the door at this other company, even though I love the company. I'm totally invested in it, both financially and time-wise, but I wasn't living my best self. And so it is just amazing that it's like something was out of whack and I didn't necessarily know it. And then it's like when everything clicks into place, then it's almost like the fear goes away. Everything just goes like I know to my core that what I am doing is what I was meant to be doing. And it took me a long time to get here. And I'm not going to lie about that, or sugarcoat around that. But I now know for sure. And it took COVID to slow everything down, like you were saying, and to be a little more present with myself and to take an introspective look to say, how can I know I was meant to use my voice on this earth. So if I'm not using my voice, but I love the wine industry and you love what I do, do what I do love, how do I then marry those so that I'm literally doing what I was meant to do? And it's amazing how it just makes everything, palatable. It just, when I had to do an 11 p.m. Zoom with somebody in Australia last night till after midnight and knew I had my workout partners coming at 5 a.m. this morning, it was okay because I had a great call last night. And so, but I think it does come down to consciously designing, your life instead of letting it happen to you. And I'm pivoting all the time still, but boy, we started running ads. So the way our business model works is it's all online. So we can control the experience. We know what's working, what's not working. And then we start placing ads on Facebook and we lock in our audience. So we were testing ads. And then once we test it and we realize that we've locked it in, we start expanding it. And this is where literally since like middle of last week when we locked in an algorithm, we're going to be sold out by the end of the month, when I was planning that this was going to be a 3-month release. And so, so it's clearly resonating. So I'm full of gratitude today. I was just hopped off my Women Presidents organization and we're supposed to check it with one word. And I'm like, I'm just so grateful because the message is resonating. And it's all women on this call. I mean, imagine, I know everybody feels this way, but I sometimes don't think we spend enough time focusing on this. If women just supported women unconditionally, instead of thinking that we're all fighting for this one spot, we would change the world tomorrow. I mean, what is there that when a group of passionate women get together, there's nothing that we can't tackle or take on. And I think that's when we do live in that place of passion and purpose. But I think we all have to be more conscious about that, because I think if more women, really stepped into, and designed that life that was amazing for them, I think we would feel more collaborative and we could push to the side all these things that we grew up hearing and listening to that really we need to take a second look at, right? So when the guy says, this is the way we've always done it, well, too bad. I'm going to show you another way. Watch me, right? And I meet women like that all the time who are the only woman in the room. And people, how many people told them that you can't do it? And they're pretty much like, watch me. So yeah, again, I'm thrilled to be here, and I don't know if there's, other questions or how you want to tackle this, Lauren, but I could go on forever because I'm so passionate about what I do. So
there are a couple things I want to ask you to elaborate on. 2 things in particular, and Sherry, I'm going to let you jump in too. So you alluded to the fact that you're pivoting all the time. I think that is how we function. Can you talk about that a little bit more? What are you pivoting about? Why do you pivot all the time? Can you elaborate?
Well, I think, everybody, like I had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted to do, but it's not until you're actually doing it that you realize that there might be a better way to do it. Or data might show that if we make this tweak, it'll have a better result. And I think part of it is being open, right? I mean, there's a lot of science that shows that when you are not open, that you literally get what are called scotomas, which are blind spots. And there's this famous, I'll never forget this because I was at a training years ago, and some of you may have seen this, but there's a video where they have 2 teams take a ball. And so the instructions to the audience are, okay, there's the team dressed in white, there's a team dressed in black. And And the black team has the ball, count how many times during this video they pass the ball. So everybody is so focused on the ball that, make a long story short, you don't see the gorilla. Physically, there's a person dressed as a gorilla that walks into the middle of the screen and is like this. And it is, but you're so focused on seeing the ball that you don't even see the gorilla in the room, right? And so, or the elephant in the room. So I think that's, and that just shows how when you're not open to things, you can miss these amazing opportunities that are right in front of you because you're not open to it. And so I've learned a long time ago, and I had this experience when I was at Special Olympics. For years, I kept asking Special Olympics, and I was a senior executive, that I wanted professional development training. And so it literally took them like 3 years to figure out where they wanted to send me and get the funds ready. So I go to this productive, what was it called? I can't remember, but it was down in, I picked the location in La Jolla, and I went down for a week. But before that, they do like these 180 and 360 reviews from anyone you're associated with, people that work for you, maybe the board I report to. And then they have a coach watch you throughout the week. And I was the only nonprofit executive. So they're watching behind one of those mirrors that you can't see them, they can see you. So it's the last day, and I'm meeting with my coach, and she's talking to me. And then, so she says, I really think you need to open up your opportunity, open up your mind to other opportunities. And I about fell out of my chair. I said, great, it took Special Olympics 3 years to get the funds to send me here. And the takeaway is I should be open to other opportunities. So, and at first my thought was, because I'm so driven by my passion, like I love money. Money is a great thing, but I'm not driven by money. And I learned that about myself early. But this coach, I said to her, like, where would I go? Like, what other nonprofit do you go to after Special Olympics? I mean, it aligned with me and everything, but I did walk away being open. And I've been at Special Olympics for almost 14 years at the time. I'd never thought about another job, and I never even got another job opportunity. I left being open, and I'm telling you, within a week, my phone would not stop ringing with people going, hey, we just thought about you. Maybe you thinking about leaving Special Olympics and come work for me. So I realized that I was close to the thought of it. So things weren't, I was closing off that energy in the universe. And so things weren't coming to me. And then that started my kind of eclectic, different jobs, different things to really find my passion and purpose. And I never really had any guidance. So one of the things I tell my kids, it's like, really, what makes you, what turns you on, right? Like, what are you excited about? So that you're young enough in your 20s, all my kids are in their 20s, to exactly what we're talking about. Design the life you want. Do it now. I mean, you could do my path, but why would you do that if somebody could advise you earlier on, to do that? But I don't think it's ever too late to do that. I mean, I couldn't be happier right now with the decisions that I've made, and really aligning with who I am as a person, and making sure that my heart and my mind are aligned.
And that shows us, and hopefully what you just said helps remind us all that whatever happened in the past got you to this moment. And as you said, we can make our lives extraordinary starting now. And it takes what we've learned and our experiences to learn from it and step into what is possible and extraordinary now.
And Lauren, sorry, just on that note though, I mean, when you read biographies about really successful people, there is no successful person that doesn't say some of the biggest learnings they had were from failures.
Always.
Like I was part of a tech startup before the '08 crash, and then the major '08 crash happened. I was running the day-to-day business, but I wasn't an owner, and the two owners ran for the hills and left me holding the bag. And that stayed with me for a long time because I was an officer of the company. I mean, I had IRS issues because they ran and didn't talk, and I just did the ethical thing of having a conversation with the IRS guy. And then it was like soon, no sooner than that I now was holding the bag for some responsibility for the company. But I talk about that story a lot because what it did for me was it said, as equally important as the work that I do, it's who I do it with. Because every company, every life experience, every journey is going to have its challenges. Who's in the trenches with you? Who's going to have your back? And who's going to support you when things get tough? Because it doesn't matter what you're doing, you are going to have challenges. And you really need to know that there are people that are committed like you are, and that will have your back, and that are willing to go through the tough times and that look for solutions. They don't go, oh my gosh, something's happening, we're on our heels, and then all they do is operate on their heels, right? Instead, it's like, just like I was saying earlier, how do I create something where I'm part of the solution, right? Not just letting it happen to me. So I think these failures have played an integral role in my life, and playing sports teaches you that, right? I also know that we could be down in the 7th inning and we can recover and win the game by the 9th inning. So I think that's where I also design things where I'm never going to take venture capital money, because their mentality is the second something goes wrong, they replace you, or they, because their model is we're going to throw money at 10 things and only one thing needs to make it. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me, because I know I'm going to hit challenges, but I believe in myself and I have faith that I'll make the proper adjustments, the pivots. So for me, it's adjustments, it's pivots, but we'll do what we need to do to make sure we not only get through it, but are more successful on the other side. And we were already moving toward moving the business online before COVID, because we saw some trends and we saw that the wine industry is so antiquated in technology that those who take advantage of a better technology stack could literally leverage not just selling to people close to a tasting room, but sell all over the country and get around the broken distribution system that exists in the wine industry. So if you're not one of the big boys, it's very hard to penetrate and get market share.
Now, I have a quick question for you. I went to your website and you talked about being on the social media, but your website doesn't have your social media sites. Maybe it's just on the phone, but I was looking.
No, it may not, but we may not have the links there. It's probably a good point, but we have a huge presence on everything's on social. Right. So if you go to our Facebook page or our Instagram page, we do all of our events on either Instagram or
I mean, I just ordered for my sister thinking, oh, she's one of those wonderful women and what a wonderful thing, she's.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to send her, one of those boxes because she would appreciate it. And that's the kind of thing you think about. Now she's in Washington, D.C., fighting for women. She's done that
right
all
on. So
yep.
That's great.
Can you tell me the name of your company again?
It's Teneral, T-E, sorry, I keep pointing the wrong chest looking at my camera. It's TENERALCELLARS.com, TeneralCellars.com.
Sherry, did you have some points that you wanted to
I was just curious, Jill, because you're talking about, when you have challenges and you're able to pivot and adjust and that sort of thing. And I'm just curious about, amazing that you've aligned your purpose and your passion and you're driven and like your feet are ready to hit the ground in the morning. That's so cool. And you will have those times when you're challenged and you have doubt and that sort of thing. And I'm just curious about, how do you get back on? How do you get back up?
That's a great question and a very fair question, because I naturally have a lot of energy, but there are days then I just don't have a great day. So one of two things happens. Usually I go through all right, what's going on? Like, why am I feeling this way? And did I drink too much last night, or is it something else? But then I kind of go through like, I've done enough work on myself, and I think that's a critically important issue for all of us, right? I mean, to just try to identify where that's coming from. There are times I will say that I just need to give myself a break, right? I mean, I run 24/7. I'm work on the weekends. I burn it at both, I have fun and I burn the candle at both ends. So I usually just kind of check in internally first to see what's going on. Do I need a walk? Do I need some more water? Do I need to just go clear my head and get away from the screen? Because with COVID, I'm a people person. Like, I've done some of the best business ever in a bar or a restaurant or at an event, and now it's all in front of an electronic screen. And so sometimes I'm not sleeping as well because of that. If like last night when I got off after midnight, I couldn't go to sleep. And I was thinking, first of all, I'm excited about the call, but second, I've just had a ton of screen time from 11 to 12 at night. And so I do that first. But then I also always think about think outside of the box. What's another way that I can approach this? Because one thing I have learned about myself is that I'm incredibly scrappy, and I can find someone who knows how to support me if I can't figure it out. And that is, I will put that down as one of the keys to my success is I have my own personal cabinet. So I have I have a group of friends that are friends that they're not CEOs CEOs and they can't support me with the professional things that I need. And a lot of times they're there for personal things. But then I have a group, and I even created an advisory board for Teneral Cellars. And a lot of these people I know already, but they are my advisors. That I ask them to hold me accountable for equity and diversity and inclusion. And I ask them to help me select charities, but it's also a lot of them have, somebody has financial expertise, somebody has legal expertise, somebody has marketing expertise, somebody has, manufacturing expertise, somebody has environmental expertise. So I have purposely surrounded myself with amazing women that regardless of what I need, I know that I have places to turn to. And I've told my daughter that, who's 28, I'm like, you need to surround yourself, and her boyfriend. I'm like, you have some people around you that are going to drag you down, because they just tell you anytime you strive for more, they tell you that you can't do it. And I'm like, you need to rethink who you're surrounding yourself with, because the right people will lift you up. The right people will support you. And I'm not afraid to ask for support. And I phrase it always as support, not help, because help is not a very empowering word. And none of it, we all sort of get on the defense when people say, do you need help? So it's much easier to say, hey, I could use your support. What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And when you give somebody support, it feels really good. So usually I can find a solution through either working internally with myself or going externally with some amazing people that I've surrounded myself with.
There's something else that you do, or that I've seen you do, just with the luxury of working with people the way that I do. It is a luxury, and it's an honor to get a glimpse inside people's thinking and their lives and how they're functioning. One of the things I've noticed that you've done recently is you're constantly thinking about, I believe you are, being more aligned with walking your talk, so that what's happening on the inside your four walls, if you're empowering women on the outside, you're thinking consistently of how to continue to step into, and that's an everyday choice. It's an everyday challenge. And it's also something that we can get better and better at over years. Like some days we're going to fall off the wagon and not be walking our talk as well, but we see it and we shorten the amount of time. Can you speak to that a bit? Because I've noticed that in you just recently.
Yeah, well, so as we were creating this and I pulled this team together, we started having conversations like, well, if we're all about being empowered women, empowering women, what are we doing to empower, to help empower ourselves and improve ourselves? And so in order to walk the walk and talk the talk, we all, I realize if we're going to have a woman owned and run business, it is going to be a different kind of business. Because, we're all women here. And when you bring a lot of women together, you've got, it's a different dynamic than working with a bunch of men, right? And playing sports, like I'm used to, and I've done my DISC assessments. I had our entire team do our DISC assessments, which was invaluable. It was invaluable because not just did I learn more about me, but then it takes you to the next level where you have the 5 do's and don'ts when talking to me. And that was great for my team because growing up playing sports, I'm just like, pardon my French, we're like, pull your head out of your ass, or get this done or do that. And my natural, I'm a high D, high I, but they're both actually about the same, both at like 99, but I'm a D over I. So I'm solutions. So I want people to come to me with solutions, but having my team understand that means that they don't need to take my intensity or my passion and misconstrue that. And so this is the work that I feel like if we do that to make ourselves better personally and professionally every day, then we can also exude that as we're trying to go out and empower other women. But if I wasn't doing that, and if I wasn't creating a conscious environment and an effort that this always becoming, if that's the whole mission and tagline of the company about this transformation, I'm not doing anything for my team or myself, then I'm not really walking the walk, right? And it would be more of a hollow, we're just trying to, put this pitch out to sell to people, and that's really not what it's about. And so whether it's working with you on our team vision wheels and personal vision wheels, to assessments, to even making time, we do a happy hour on Wednesday for my team, just so that we don't talk work. We all open a glass of, a bottle, have a glass of wine, and we just talk about each other personally, because it's, what's that? Cigar. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, and then we can all even educate a little bit on wine. And so everybody gets, becomes better experts on that. But it's really about connecting. And I think for a minute, I was actually so driven when we were starting, that I was forgetting that we need to slow down, have the cigar, and just connect as women, because that's so important. And but again, that's one of those little pivots I made, because at first we were just so like boom, boom, boom. We got to get open, got to launch, got to do all this stuff. And then when you take a step back and do those necessary things, they're so not only impactful for everyone, but then everybody feels more connected. And as women, we strive for everybody feels better when there's connection, and and that creates better energy. And I think everything is energy. So yeah. And even trying to explain to people during COVID, when you're on Zoom, like I'm naturally dialed up, so I don't really have an issue with that. But for most people, I had sent some of my team to some PR training for how to come across on Zoom, because you naturally have to dial it up, and you don't think you do, because you're thinking, oh, that's not really me, but you're not coming across as you unless you dial it up sometimes. And so, but just looking at all of that stuff, and and how do we better ourselves both personally and professionally.
I want to open it up for people to ask more questions and comments. And I also want to say that I so love hearing more and more leaders talking about energy. Like, it's becoming a normal part of our conversation, that our energy matters, and what energy we bring to the table matters, and our heart energy. It's like, it's such music to my ears that we are having such a conversation. So anyway, other people have comments or questions of anything around this topic?
I just think it's fabulous. I loved hearing your story and hearing, where you came from, what the change that happened that brought you to being that change maker in your life, and, learning to say no to some of those people. Everything that you've talked about is coming through in seeing what you're doing. And I think that's just phenomenal.
No, I appreciate that, Julia. And, it's just one thing that Lauren just said about energy. I'm now working 100% out of my house, even though the other winery office is not even 7 minutes from here, because the energy there is horrible for me. So it may not be horrible for other people. It's horrible for me. Yeah. And so I can be so much more effective in my own office, creating my own space, and get to look out the vineyards out my window right here. So that's not bad. But I think that's really important, is to create an environment that creates the right kind of energy for you. And I'm a believer in feng shui and all of that stuff, because energy is motion. And there's so much science now that supports our health, our well-being, our success is all, can be linked back to the kind of energy that we're putting out. So I choose to put great energy out, and I expect it to come right back.
Expectation. Anybody else? Comments, questions, thoughts?
I like the whole idea. Thank you for your talk. I like the whole idea of taking advantage of this very incredibly unique time that we have, where we're just sitting, we're just home, and the kinds of things that we're able to do. And my whole thing, it's about taking advantage. What is it that you can do that you couldn't have done otherwise, right? I've had a lot of pivot times, both good and bad and all over the place, but that wouldn't have been possible had I not had this time. Literally, for me, it's been exactly a year that I've been working from home, and I've just been here. I don't even go to a market. So, but the things that I've been able to do have been amazing. And so it's very interesting for me to hear how you have done that, how you have taken this time to make lemonade out of lemons, basically, and make it into something beautiful. That always inspires me, and it's great. And I'm a huge believer of the whole energy thing. So I think that's an awesome company that you have running. I think that's fantastic. It's taking something that you believe in and making a living out of it. My hats off to you. I think that's really well done. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Well, because I kind of think like no great conversation ever started over salad, right? So Gotta open that wine.
I think we need to find a way to bottle that in a way. No pun intended.
I like it. I bottled it.
You have to come up with a label called energy.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean by that is it's bottled, the whole idea of how do you make lemonade out of lemons, and even that is not a good expression, because that implies that it's a bad situation, and in many ways it isn't. How do you take this unique opportunity, turn into something amazing, and then sharing it with women, having some sort of a network where women get to talk about the sorts of things that they're doing to take advantage of this time. Because you hear a lot, unfortunately, I think you hear a lot about, oh, I'm home. Oh, you hear a lot of that in a lot of different places.
Well, your point is really well taken. We made a very conscious effort that everything we put out is positive. So it's taking a positive spin, even including like names when we were thinking about labels, because there were some fun names that we could come up with, but they had like negative words in them, and I'm like, I don't want to put any of that out. And everything we do on social, we have full event calendars. We have roundtable conversations, cooking classes, concerts. We have a segment literally called Vino and Vulva, where we have an OBGYN and you open wine and you talk about women's issues. And, but even, for some people our age, some women might be uncomfortable, but it's a millennial doctor, right? And and a lot of millennials, they're a lot more comfortable talking about their body than we are. And I think we have a lot to learn from them, because, I grew up in a era, like most of you, where we don't, intercourse is meant for reproduction, right? It's not meant for pleasure. And you go to every other country and sex is about pleasure. And so, we're doing it in a classy way, but we're having those necessary conversations. And I'm going to be talking to a lot of my advisors on a live roundtable next Monday on racial justice and on the impact that RBG had on everyone's lives. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. And so we have a theme every month. So this release has justice this month, diversity next month, and family in May. All three things that were so important to RBG. And then we do different activities around that. And then we've got a lot of diverse content as well, because equity is such an important thing. But I'm doing exactly what you're talking about, which is we are creating that community, and it's through this swarm movement that you can use wine as a conduit for social change.
And I'm going to add a bit to the community piece. One of Jill's people in her team is going to be working with us on Women, Wine, and Wheels, which, if you haven't read about it, so it's about helping your accountability to your intention wheel. When Jill Jill's team member does a wine tasting, which will happen at the Women, Wine, and Wheels, there's a wine tasting wheel that we use. So it's going to be a fun time if anybody wants to join us. Yeah. So it is all about community. And I was speaking to someone today, and she was talking about why do I feel like I need right now in my life so much acknowledgement? And I said, you know what? At every time in our life, we need different levels of support. It's not about independence. It's about interdependence. And when we learn to support one another, we are better. We're better women. We're a better race. We're a better country. We're a better family. But it's about interdependence, not independence. I always want to celebrate every 4th of July. If anybody's ever seen anything that I've ever done, I don't acknowledge Independence Day. It's interdependence. That's where our power is. It's in supporting one another. Mm-hmm. I just want to go back to Sherry to see if you have any other points you want to bring up or make.
I'm looking at Michelle, and Michelle's wheels are turning, and I know she's something back.
I just want to say, oh my goodness. So I love the hospitality industry. I love wine, and I work in ag, for the last 25 years. So I went from the hospitality industry in my early days to ag, and I've been in ag for a long time. And so when I hear you talking about, how few women are at the top, it's not just wine, it's throughout ag in general. And yet, when you look at, like when I look at our sales force, right, and we sell horse feed, right? So our customer is primarily women. The majority of our sales force is women, and yet the folks in those top roles are men, and it is so consistent throughout the industry. So that really resonated with me, and I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Thank
And
you.
how
I
this
appreciate that.
yeah, it's just amazing. And the whole ag industry is really so gosh, it just needs so much of a shakeup in that way. And it's slow, it definitely lags. And so you're just a really bright spot. I'm like, there it is. And and I know some of the folks, some of the top roles now at Land O'Lakes, so one of the biggest co-ops, are now held by women. We're partnered with them, so I have a little window on them, but it's a tough slog, and
Yeah.
I am really impressed by what you've been able to do. So
Thank you. Well, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I am committed to my downstream being women-owned businesses. So because I don't have a tasting room, I'm not tethered to El Dorado County, which is where my vineyards are now and where I'm an owner in this other group. But moving forward, we want to take people on a wine journey around the world and go find a female farmer or viticulturist in Italy and get some Trebbiano, or bring some champagne from Champagne, but making sure that, my printer is female owned. My label company is women owned. My PR firm is women owned. My influencer company is women owned. So, it's so important to me that I make a conscious effort that I'm going to find those businesses that are women owned and make sure that's where my money is being spent.
yeah, I applaud you. Awesome. I just am so excited to hear you talk, seriously, yeah. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
And part of that, of what you're creating, is out of frustration. So that's why, our frustrations matter. It's not, they don't get to be shoved under the rug. Use them to create extraordinary versus anything else. Use your frustrations to create extraordinary. So if there's something you're sitting here frustrated with, name it so that you can say, how do I turn that into extraordinary?
Where innovation happens, right, is where there's a problem that can't be solved and you can find a new way. You can be creative in what you do, and then you can do that with your life. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, my friends, always a pleasure. We're going to be doing these conversations once a month for the rest of 2021 with a different change maker each month. Jill, it was an honor to have you first today. I'm excited for our first little Women, Wine, and Wheels kicking off at the end of the month. And I'm excited to see who's going to be on the label in April.
You'll just have to wait and see.
I know, I'm so excited.
You just have to join our swarm and then you'll get those bottles sent to you. Actually, Lauren has a 20% discount code if anybody wants to use it. It's Lauren20. And you'll get a one-time buy it with her discount code if you guys want to try the wines and see what we're up to. So,
so if you buy anything on Jill's site today, feel free to use Lauren20. And does that have to be capitals or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So my name, first name only, number 20 after it, and you'll have a discount. Enjoy your discount. Enjoy your wine.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together, both Lauren and Jill. And thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Good to see all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers to all of you.
To everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.